Whoever's behind this concerted campaign is trying to shut us up. PM Lawrence Wong was invited for a dialogue at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum, and he was asked a question about the Japan-China relationships at the moment.
PM Wong's response was,
"We hope the two countries will find ways to resolve these very complex issues and move forward. Southeast Asia has done that with Japan, as far as the history is concerned. It has taken some time, but with the passage of time, with the passing of generations, the feelings are not the same. And we have put the history aside and we're moving forward. And it's quite striking that survey after survey shows that Japan is the #1 trusted great power in Southeast Asia. And so Singapore and all the Southeast Asian countries support Japan playing a bigger role in our region, including on the security front, because we think that provides for some stability in the region.
We hope the two countries will find ways to resolve these very complex issues and move forward. Southeast Asia has done that with Japan. As far as the history is concerned, it has taken some time, but with the passage of time, with the passing of generations, the feelings are not the same, and we have put the history aside and we are moving forward.
A lot of people are very, very unhappy with that answer. But there seems to be a concerted campaign to push, critique and criticize PM Wong's actually very reasonable, very rational answer to his question. This is a very insidious campaign, and it's only on these Chinese online media platforms. As an A-says boy, Jiakantang, my Chinese is very terrible, cannot make it, I don't read them. So it's obviously not meant for me. It's obvious as an A-says boy, Jiakantang, my Chinese is very terrible, cannot make it, I don't read them. So it's obviously not meant for me. It's obvious as an A-says boy, Jiakantang, my Chinese is very terrible, cannot make it, I don't read them. So it's obviously not meant for me. It's obviously meant for a certain segment of Singapore's population who only speak Chinese. Whoever's behind this concerted campaign is trying to shut us up. We are playing by global rules. The problem is, once you have this kind of concerted campaign, what it's meant to do is to pressure you to move back your very reasonable responses.
You take sides.
So once you move it back, if I'm in the center and you're pressuring me to move away from the center, all that it's left is I agree with you or I strongly agree with you. We are a sovereign country, we have our own belief systems, we have our own belief system of how people should work, and we'd like everyone to work together because that's actually the most beneficial for everyone.
残念ながら日中関係は極めて冷えた関係になってしまいました。これも国益を損なうことだと私は思いました。独断専行だったんではないんでしょうか。そのことによってこのように日中関係が悪化をしてしまったことについて総理はどのような責任を感じていらっしゃる。
Why is China so upset about Japan's Taiwan comments? Because it is a story of broken promises and creative legal reinterpretations. First, Japan is doing a constitutional U-turn. After World War II, Japan adopted a pacifist constitution. Its heart is this Article 9. Let's be specific. The original text is beautifully clear. The Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation and the threat or use of force as means of settling international disputes. Land, sea, and air forces, as well as other war potential, will never be maintained. The right of belligerency of the state will not be recognized. But when a constitution is too restrictive, some find a workaround. They don't mend it, they reinterpret it. And the first big reinterpretation came fast. By the 1950s, Japan decided that no military didn't actually mean no military. They established a self-defense force with land, sea, and air branches, a full-scale military in everything but name. A neat trick that had legal experts crying foul from day one. Then in 2015, Shinzo Abe performed his own legal magic. He pushed through laws that changed one crucial word, from self-defense to collective self-defense. One word, a huge shift. It now allows Japan to fight if an ally is threatened, even if Japan itself is perfectly safe. And now they're applying this to Taiwan, calling it a survival-threatening situation. In other words, they consider Taiwan a province of China, Japan's ally, and threaten to use force if China deals with its own territorial issues. Now Japan is going from defense to offense, intervening and interfering with China's very domestic affairs. This again breaks Japan's own treaties with China in the 1972 Sino-Japanese Joint Statement, which laid the basis for diplomatic relations between Beijing and Tokyo. Japan recognized Beijing as the sole legal government of China and agreed that Taiwan is part of China. A position, by the way, shared by the United States, the United Nations, and the vast majority of countries in this world.
China suffered 3 Holocausts. That's how many millions of Chinese people died during World War II from the Japanese invasion. 300,000 Chinese people died in the Nanjing massacre alone, making it the largest massacre in history. To truly honor the Jewish and other European victims of German fascism, we need to do a better job of understanding fascism overall, including in Imperial Japan. That way, we can fight it anywhere it takes root. During World War II, China was the United States' ally, but we aren't taught much about that history anymore for political reasons. That's why most Americans have never even heard of the Nanjing massacre, formerly known as the Rape of Nanking. And to this day, the Japanese government is still split on fully acknowledging and apologizing for the massacre. This summer, I visited the Memorial Hall in Nanjing to learn about this history and to share the victims' stories, which are more important now than ever, as we're witnessing constant civilian massacres carried out by fascist Israel. This is important but highly disturbing history. Please watch with care. In just 6 weeks, the Japanese military murdered 300,000 people in Nanjing. That would be like if 40 people were killed in your city before you finished this video. And cruelty was the Japanese army's official policy. They had to be cruel and dehumanize the Chinese to justify killing them for their land and resources. At the museum, I learned stories of countless atrocities of torture, entire facilities for the mass rape of women and girls, publicized killing competitions, and stories of the bloody corpses of mutilated families left in the snow to freeze together into a single mound of human flesh. From the very first days of the massacre, documents show that there were too many bodies to dispose of. The Japanese were murdering so many people that the bodies of their victims were getting in the way of murdering more, and soldiers began to complain of the constant putrid smell. There were too many bodies piled in the streets for the Japanese army's vehicles to drive over them. The bodies couldn't be burned or buried fast enough, and nearby ponds disappeared after being completely filled with corpses. The museum itself is located on a mass burial site where you can see the partially excavated human remains. One solution for the Japanese was to tie hundreds of civilians together and bring them to the Yangtze River for execution, so that their bodies could be quickly dumped into the river, but the thousands of bodies eventually even clogged the river. The corpses often washed back ashore or lodged into boats trying to pass. All this brutality started with Japan's Prince Asaka. Documents show that he gave a quote, "kill all captives" order, which instructed the Japanese army to immediately slaughter the tens of thousands of surrendered Chinese soldiers in Nanjing, when other armies at the time would have typically taken the troops as prisoners of war. Later, Japan's scorched earth policy they were using across China would be formalized into the 3 Alls directive: kill all, burn all, loot all. This systemized barbarism could also be seen in Japan's disturbing comfort stations, which were set up in Nanjing shortly after the massacre began. These were converted buildings used as mass rape facilities where Chinese and later Korean women and girls were held prisoner. They were raped and brutalized by dozens of Japanese soldiers per day, barely kept alive through the constant violence. Japan established these facilities across China and filled them with kidnapped Korean women and girls who were their colonial subjects at the time. There are also documents of barbaric killing contests, like one to see who could be the first to kill 100 Chinese civilians using a sword. The military used gruesome torture rituals and demonstrations to desensitize their soldiers and dehumanize the Chinese. Some of these included beheading contests, using civilians for bayonet practice, disemboweling pregnant women with bayonets, burning people alive, and feeding victims to dogs, all for fun and sport. And all of these events are thoroughly documented, even by some Japanese journalists who were appalled by their own army's brutality. And over the years, several Japanese veterans have given testimonies of the horrible things they saw or did. Many Chinese people kept records of the events as well, and survivors have shared their testimonies of what happened to them and their families. There are only 28 survivors remaining. They even have video footage of the massacre displayed at the Memorial Museum in Nanjing. This footage was recorded almost 90 years ago by American missionary John Magee. John Magee and several other Americans and Europeans in Nanjing were doing missionary work when the Japanese invaded. They rose to the occasion and used their international status to protect Chinese civilians. The heroic American Minnie Vautrin saved up to 10,000 people, mostly women and girls the Japanese soldiers were trying to kidnap. Together, these heroes leveraged their international status to organize the Nanking Safety Zone, which ultimately protected an estimated 250,000 civilians in their tight quarters. They also provided life-saving medical care for countless countless injured Chinese civilians. And at the head of the Nanking Safety Zone Committee was German businessman John Rabe. Not everything in history is black and white. John Rabe was a member of the German Nazi Party, supporting his own country's genocidal fascist regime with his overseas business dealings. But it was his very affiliation with the Nazi Party that would successfully deter the Japanese soldiers. Because Japan and Nazi Germany were allies, John Rabe would show his swastika armband to command the Japanese soldiers to leave. He sheltered over 600 Chinese civilians in his own home alone, and his detailed diary entries became essential to learning the truth of the Nanjing massacre. But to this day, Japan has never offered a full official apology for the Nanjing massacre. Instead, its leaders have issued vague expressions of regret, while some nationalist politicians deny the slaughter even happened. Some Japanese history textbooks avoid using the word massacre, and they minimize the atrocities. China was left in ruins after World War II, and the civil war that followed drained what little resources remained. For decades after, they were blocked from trading with the rich Western powers, so by the 70s, they were desperate to be able to trade with Japan again, who was already becoming rich after $40 billion in today's dollars of aid from the United States. China received aid from the United States too, but a large amount of it went to the losing side of their civil war, which ultimately prolonged that conflict. And further aid was given to the ROC, not the PRC, which was the start of the divide that we see to this day between mainland China and Taiwan. So in their negotiations to normalize relations and trade, Japan pressured China to relinquish the right to seek reparations or to prosecute war crimes. China openly agreed because they know more than anyone how invaluable peace truly is. And that was the part of the museum I really wasn't ready for. Despite all the pain and dehumanization the Chinese suffered, they still promote forgiveness, right there above the bodies of the victims. After all, it was the barbaric invaders who promoted racial division and hatred. Many people told me that they wouldn't want to visit Nanjing because of the sad history, but that's exactly what those Japanese soldiers would want. They wanted to wipe Nanjing off the face of the earth. They wanted Japan to completely subjugate China and to never see the two countries as peaceful, cooperative neighbors on equal footing. They would hate to see Nanjing rise from the ashes, and that's why it's so important to keep the truth alive and to visit Nanjing to be a part of its peaceful, prosperous future. There will always be a scar on Nanjing from this tragic history, but it was so inspiring and uplifting to make friends there and to see how far this beautiful city has come. I really encourage everyone to visit Nanjing, make friends there, and to see the Memorial Museum, which is a free museum, and if you'd like, you can consider donating for flowers to leave for the victims.
How many Chinese people did the Japanese army kill? はっきりとは分かりません。1937 and June 1941, the Japanese army killed 2,015,000 Chinese people. That by slaughtering 2 million Chinese lives, that it might rouse the fury of the Chinese people? Please answer the question.
そのことは大変遺憾に思います。
Why was the treatment of these uninvolved, innocent civilians so atrocious?
いわゆる民間人が戦争とは全く関係ないという考えは中国の統帥者の罪です。我々には関係ありません。
So not only did you not evacuate the troops, but you expanded the conflict, right?
そうです。
I am not responsible for the world. I am only responsible for Singaporeans and Singapore. And so even if the world becomes more disorderly and chaotic, we want Singapore to remain calm, peaceful, and stable. And we have been very fortunate and very blessed in Singapore to enjoy such a stable environment. But let's be very clear. This did not happen by chance. It's not magic. It did not just fall from the sky. We are subject to the same pressures that you see in places everywhere around the world. But we have been able to avoid many of the problems that you see elsewhere. And it's because of the solidarity that we've built painstakingly year after year, decade after decade, and the trust that we share amongst fellow Singaporeans in our little red dot. This building of trust takes effort. It doesn't happen on its own. And so we must keep sowing the seeds, and we must keep nurturing them year after year, generation after generation. So all our contributions help towards building this trust and keeping Singapore strong and united. And if we all do our part together, we can nurture a more caring and inclusive society here in Singapore. One where every generation feels the support and warmth from the community, and where every Singaporean has a reason to believe in a better tomorrow. So, as Hao Ren Hao Shi would say, let's all do good together. Thank you very much.
The words she used were the words Japan used. I think in 1931, there were words Japan used to justify the invasion of China. So I thought, maybe it could be deliberate, because you use these words, China is bound to react, then Japanese will feel more nationalistic, then they'll agree to spending more money on military equipment, and maybe it will improve her popularity in Japan. So when Trump called Prime Minister Takaichi to lower the temperature, then it was clear that at his level, there was no support. Japan should only act if America wants it to act. But if Japan acts on its own, it's regarding American interests, the Americans will put a stop to it. So the Japanese Prime Minister will have to climb down. But she'll lose face and she'll lose support. China cannot take it lightly, because when you say something which affects Taiwan affects Japan, it is a position not taken by any other country.
Now, I would say Europeans should be very, very careful dealing with China. Why? History. The Chinese remember exactly, with great precision, everything that happened in the century of humiliation. And I can tell you that what actually sparked the revival of China, something that also happened 100 years ago, right? When, after Germany lost World War I, and China had sent, I don't know the exact figures, 400,000 to 500,000 Chinese to help the Allies in their effort against Germany. At the end of World War I, the Chinese said, we helped you so much. When we defeat Germany, the German concessions in Shandong must go back to China, since China fought with the Allies against Germany. Instead, the Allies gave it to Japan. And that started the great revival of China, because the Chinese said, this is so humiliating. We cannot accept this. Right? How many Germans, how many Europeans remember this? The Chinese, every Chinese knows this. So if you don't know the history of what Europe did to China from roughly 1842 to 1949, then you are at a great disadvantage in dealing with China.